Hey, you should use passive building for these videos. What do you think this is, a build guide? That ain't gonna happen. This is just gonna be an update to like the final update to that Culling Strike build, or not Culling Strike, kind of. But we finally got the martial arts ascendancy, the final two nodes plus some updates to some stuff. And I think the build is going to probably not use hollow form. I might use hollow form for single target if I even do this build, but I probably am actually going to League start staggering palm with some other stuff that I'll think about later and put together an actual different video for. This is about the updates to the killing palm, culling strike stuff, which obviously killing palm. From what they showed off in the monk showcase, the martial artist showcase, it looks like the images from hollow form count as almost like general's cries proxies, which is to say they will not use your power charges, but they will not use copies of your power charges, and they wouldn't grant you power charges with killing palm. So if you want to use killing palm, you still can to gain power charges, but you wouldn't use it in hollow form. Luckily enough for me, I was planning on using other things for power charges. You can't really seemingly use Flicker Strike in hollow form either to like consume your power charges on bosses, at least not with hollow form. So it might be that I just don't use hollow form at all, which is fine, because some of the mods from Way of the Stone Fist looked incredibly strong. So just taking hollow focus for bells, the bells have changed. They used to be like 5-second duration and 4-second duration between bells, so both of those were modified by duration with a limit of 1 active bell. Now it's 21-second duration. They appear every 2 seconds, every 2.05. It's modified by CDR, and there's 3 active bells. And I didn't open this page up, so let me go find it real fast. That's not how you spell Tempest. But Tempest Bell, as well, got some changes. It can be ancestrally boosted as though it were a strike skill, and its maximum number of active bells has been increased to 3, previously 1. So if the hollow focus bells are the same, though it doesn't exactly say it, but if that can be ancestrally boosted in some kind, probably not, but if it can, then it might be possible to get this to every once in a while throw down all 3 bells. Worst case scenario, you just get a bunch of CDR, which the glove mods from Fist of the Stone, it looked like intelligence on gloves turned into CDR. Plus there was those new runes that like allow boots to roll CDR. So it seems like there's a lot of ways to get more of it. You can still be getting a bell every, pretty easily. I don't think you can quite as easily get it down to every 1 second as you could when it was a duration. Every less than a second even. It was pretty easy to get to like 0.93 when it was a duration. But that also brought the actual duration of the bell down to like 1.2 seconds, and you still only had a limit of 1 bell. This is significantly more convenient, and I believe much better endgame. It depends on what CDR numbers you can reasonably get to without sacrificing anything else. But that will be the first note. Obviously, you take hollow focus. If you still use killing palm, it can be nice depending on what other things you do to generate power charges. I believe they're normal. They count as normal power, so you gain 1 power charge by default. This could give you... This could be supplemental power charges. While mapping, it wouldn't matter with killing palm. Against bosses, this could be supplemental, but I would still suggest having some sort of secondary way to generate power charges if you want to cash out with Flicker Strike, which is what I would probably do if I was playing this build. My personal second way, since I'd be using these gloves, the Horror's Flight anyway, for the Fear Incarnate, depending on what these mods turn into from Fist of the Stone. Obviously, I was talking about CDR from gloves on Int, which you wouldn't have on this most likely. But what I would most likely do is have Horror's Flight here with the Crushing Fear and Culmination 2 and Aelith's Chimes. It got changed a little bit, so you can only build up to 10 combo instead of 20, so you only get 2 with a 50% chance of a third power charge from Aelith's Chimes. But it's also much easier to build up 10 combo. In fact, I keep on forgetting, there's more stuff I need to see on this one, but Flicker Strike, for example, it'll consume your power charges, two additional strikes per power charge. So even if you only have, if you get unlucky and get 2 from Aelith's Chimes and Culmination, like you pop this, only get 2, hit 1 Flicker Strike, that would be 5 power charges, or sorry, rather 5 strikes, which is already half of the combo that you need to build up to throw back the Aelith's Chimes. If you get the third power charge, that gets you up to 7, so you only need to get 3 other strikes. I'm not entirely sure. There probably are other things you could do to get even more hits. Certain things like there is a passive node on the tree. Let me... that doesn't open to the tree. There's a node on the tree that says quarterstaff attacks count as consuming an additional power charge. Plus there's a lot of just stats in general, like of things count as consuming power charges without consuming them. So there's a potential that you could get a Flicker Strike to hit 10 times. I mean, you can already get, 7 pretty easily with a 50% chance of 9 hits just off of this. So it might be that you could just kind of play the game as hit Flicker Strike, or hit, use something, maybe even just slow power chargeless Flicker Strike, or some alternative way to generate power charges. And then Flicker Strike, hit a bunch of times with your Flicker Strike to generate combo, which then you would tap like a Crushing Fear to, to get a bunch of Cull on all these enemies that you'll be like super high Cull threshold against, and generate a bunch of power charges with Aelith's Chimes, and then Flicker Strike again to gain a bunch of combo. You would need another thing in there. And of course, I say using Crushing Fear, but there's a chance you might just want to use Killing Palm anyway, for better clear, since it'll dash 2 additional valid targets, but it is kind of weird on the hits. Sometimes they just whiff. And because that would allow you to cull your bells from Hollow Focus for some additional power charges. But you could have Killing Palm just like as a third ability that you only use if you need extra power charges or extra combo generation for your the Crushing Fear, or power charges for Flicker Strike. That's Hollow Focus. Obviously, Way of the Stone Fist, we'll have to see what it turns these into. They said that it was not going to modify the skills that are granted by gloves. I believe in the Q&A they said it was not going to do that. But then they showed off Thunder Fist, and Thunder Fist got a different skill. It got its skill changed. But, I mean, this percent increased evasion rating turned into, on a different pair of gloves, percent increased evasion rating turned into more, and it was like 75, I want to say, 75% increased evasion rating turned into like 14% more global evasion rating and ES. So this could be a really strong mod there, just like defensively. The chaos damage will probably turn into damage as extra chaos. We'll have to see what Fear Incarnate and attack speed and dex turn into. I don't think they showed off attack speed. But if Fear Incarnate turns into something else, I'm just coming up with some random something here. But if Fear Incarnate, when you cull, turns into you gain something that makes you get more immobilization buildup when you immobilize an enemy, then we just wouldn't use Fists of Stone. You'd be losing some power, or at least we wouldn't once we get to Horror's Flight. but I'm going to assume it stays on Cull, and then I'll give you the fourth Ascendancy node that I would use personally. You can use whatever you want. If it turns out that Way of the Stone Fist kind of kills Horror's Flight. Obviously, again, by the way, we're using Myra's Ixor for the 100% increased Culling Strike threshold. That'll just be nice. Since we're doing combo, we also take Martial Adept. When you gain combo, gain an additional combo. And I realized I just talked about the entire, like, oh, here's all the weird ways you could generate combo with, like, Flicker Strike into this, completely forgetting about this node. Maybe I should script these videos one day. But even if you ignore the Energy Shield recharge delay, which means you'll already probably be generating a ton of Energy Shield recharge, you can pop a Flicker Strike with 2 power charges, which would normally be 5 hits, giving you 5 combo. It gives you 10 combo. Culmination 2, Aelith's Chimes, you can immediately spend that to get a guaranteed 2 power charges and then Flicker Strike again. So you just Flicker Strike, Crushing Fear. Flicker Strike, Crushing Fear. Flicker Strike, Crushing Fear. I completely forgot about this first line, the gaining combo, gain additional combo. I'm just telling you that right now. If you want to do Martial Master, you can. Martial Master, the gain combo from all attack hits, I don't think is necessary, but what it does let you do, first of all, if it isn't necessary, okay, if it is, it's nice. But it also lets you build and retain combo regardless of weapon set. So you could use a secondary skill point, because for, say, the Flicker Strike that you would be using, or I would be using, I wouldn't care about the Culling Strike threshold. I only really care about Culling Strike threshold for Crushing Fear and or Killing Palm. So I could use whichever one I use. It would be Killing Palm before I get the gloves, depending on if I get gloves or Aelith's Chimes first, but probably just Killing Palm for the generating power charges anyway. Point is that you could use that in a second weapon set that has a skill tree that goes and takes all, there's a couple of like, of Culling Strike chance nodes, so you can use a second weapon set to get the extra Culling Strike for the skill you're going to use that culls, but then have higher, just like other damage nodes or attack speed nodes, or this, you know, you only need the Flicker Strike to have the node about using, about counting as using additional power charge. You don't need that on things that don't use power charges. So there's some nice stuff you can do there. So again, we're going to be taking Hollow Focus for sure. Both combo nodes pretty much guaranteed. If Way of the Stone Fist is good with Horror's Flight for a Cull build, we will stick with that. We will stick with Horror's Flight. We will just take Fist of the Stone, most likely. If Fist of the Stone are bad, if it turns Horror's Flight away from culling, or even if it's not bad per se, I mean, I think the evasion rating is going to become crazy. I imagine that'll give somewhere on the realm of like 20 to 25% more global evasion and energy shield. So Fist of the Stone will probably be good, but if it, you know, removes Fear Incarnate, maybe if it changes Crushing Fear, or if it turns out that runes are just really good, there's a ton of new runes, not even counting Olroth's Legacy, you probably take Runic Meridians. And then there's something to be said about once you've gotten power charges to be easily generated with combo, Aelith's Chimes, Culmination, all that stuff, if Fist of the Stone is really good with Horror's Flight, and the new runes from Olroth, or just the new runes in general, are incredibly strong, you might drop bells. Because if you've got the Aelith's Chimes on whatever skill into Flicker Strike with combo generation, so you just press one, then press the other, then press one, then press the other, then you don't really need the bells. The bells can be nice, because they can, you know, they can cause heavy stun on enemies primed for stun. That can be pretty good. You can cull them or crit to get some good stuff out of it. But my thought is what I am going to do is I'm going to start with, on this build, if I do this build, again, I think I'm going to go Staggering Palm, but if I were to go for this build, I would check Way of the Stone Fist first. If I have some good gloves that have like, you know, multiple different flat damage and stuff like that, I might go Way of the Stone Fist first. But there's a decent chance I go Hollow Focus first, so that with killing Palm, I can be generating power charges. I won't have access to Flicker Strike yet, tier 13, but on bosses, I will have easy access to power charges, which I can use for like a Falling Thunder or something like that. Falling Thunder with power charges gives you a ton of damage. Then after I go Hollow Focus, Ascendancy 2, at that point would probably be Fist of Stone. And then I would go probably combo node, but there is also something to be said that combo might only be useful once you've gotten Aelith's Chimes, so that you can start generating power charges that way. There are other things you can use combo for. I could potentially, you'd be gaining twice as much combo with Martial Adept and with Martial Master. You gain combo from all attacks and you can swap weapon sets. So I could throw Culmination on something like Flicker Strike to just give it 40% more damage, since I'll need to be using something else to generate power charges anyway, most likely. Obviously there is Profane Ritual tech, so I might go Martial Master, or I might grab like Runic Meridians early so that I can help myself to solve other issues like resistances, or just get a bunch of extra life, or get stats, or whatever. And then respec out of Runic Meridians once I get Aelith's Chimes into the combo stuff, or respec out of Hollow Focus once I get Aelith's Chimes to spec into the combo stuff. As for, again, Hollow Form, as much as Hollow Form seems really cool, really good for single target, which it might be, if that is the case, that this is really good for single target, I might say instead of Flicker Strike, I use some other skill for my single target and use it in Hollow Form. In which case I would probably again drop Hollow Focus, because if I don't need to generate power charges anymore, I would drop Hollow Focus, or I would drop some combo stuff for it. But the general idea, again, one more time. Hollow Focus for early power charge generation, to cash out on Falling Thunder or Flicker Strike. Way of the Stone Fist, extremely strong glove nodes by the looks of it, may get replaced if it ruins Horror's Flight. Both of the combo nodes are great for Aelith's Chimes, or potentially just throwing down a lot of Tempest Bells, especially now that they can be ancestrally boosted. Hollow Form, probably good, but I don't think it would necessarily be better than Flicker Strike. This is, I wonder if, I must be honest with you, I haven't used Flicker Strike. There's a chance this doesn't work and you go for Hollow Form. I have not used Flicker Strike for bossing in PoE 2. Can it hit the same enemy twice? Like, if there's only one enemy, does it constantly hit the same enemy? Because it does in PoE 1. I'm going to assume it does, so that I can be happy about it. If not, then you would definitely go with Hollow Form for something else. Or maybe get some bells. Either Hollow Focus bells or just Tempest bells that you throw down. And then you just go back and forth between the boss and the bells. The combo stuff, again, good for Aelith's Chimes, potential Tempest bells. Hollow Resonance, I don't really care for. It does decent damage. If you're going for big crits, then it might be something. Runic Meridians, I believe, will be super strong with Olroth's Legacy. But also they're just adding a bunch of new runes, so it might be good for something else there. Mountain's Teaching got a huge nerf. Oh yeah, by the way, small thing. This does 15% less damage now, instead of 20% less damage. But the Mountain's Teaching only gives you 15% more damage on the attacks. But it got a huge defensive nerf of now only making things deal 40% instead of 70%. Still very good against smaller hits, but my general idea is we don't care about defenses. We just want to kill everything before it kills me. If you want to go defenses, good luck. I just think that from the Way of the Stone Fist loves stacking evasion and energy shield. You might also, I mean, you're losing out on your helmet slot. Not losing out, but it only gives you 300, like 308 plus quality. So you might want to do Hollow Palm, especially depending on what some of the glove nodes for Fist of the Stone end up being. Like if Dexterity ends up being transformed into something crazy for unarmed, or attack speed ends up transformed into something crazy. But this will have such little evasion rating. I mean, I say such little. It'll still have the 300-100 base, but since this will most likely turn into a more global modifier, this will just have the 300-100 evasion energy shield, and then you can quality it. The global will be good for like your general defenses, but it won't be great for Hollow Palm. Is there anything else for this build? Not that I can think of. Generally, I think that these two nodes are very good, the two unrevealed nodes. The buffs to bells is going to make early game, I think, feel way better. Grabbing Hollow Focus so you can have power charges against bosses. One of these days, I'll actually make like a proper script for a video. But, so I don't make the mistakes of being like, dang, how are we going to generate the, 3 to 5 extra attacks to get extra combo? Yeah, just Martial Adept. Oops, that one's on me, but hey, I corrected myself. Don't comment on it. To be fair, if you were going to comment on it, you already have. Also, by the way, this is completely unrelated. I don't think you should do this for this build, but the nice thing about Martial Master here is that it says from all attack hits, you can generate combo, whereas combo typically is successfully striking enemies. This says all attack hits, so you could do bows or crossbows or even slams to generate combo. Just something to think about. It's the second Ascendancy node, so that's not going to happen incredibly early. Still got to get to Act 3 for that, like halfway through Act 3, though I think they said in the patch notes, maybe, that they're making Act 3, the progression through Act 3 a little different, so maybe you get the Ascendancy a little earlier. But the gain combo from all attack hits could lead to some crazy thing with, constant generation of combo with some attacks that you couldn't use prior because they weren't strikes. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about here. If there's anything that I clearly forgot about, like huge mechanic things. Obviously, I didn't talk about, like Culling Strike 2. I didn't talk about the increased Culling Strike threshold. That's just, that's stuff that I covered in the first video. Something I will cover, though. There is one thing else I forgot. Cull the Weak. Cull the Weak got huge buffs to more bring it in line with Killing Palm. It now has the same base. It has actually better base damage at lower. This is 90 to 281. This is 109 to 281. It has its Can't Be Evaded. It has 75% base, which is the same here. It has the 8 to 42 mana cost, so it costs a little more, but then at the end it costs the same. It got bigger maximum dash range. So now there is something to be said about using spears and Cull the Weak. And there is also a chance, because we don't know what Face Breakers turn into, you would be losing the Fear Incarnate, so you'd lose quite a bit of Culling Strike threshold, but there's a tiny chance that Fist of the Stone lets you use spear skills with Facebreaker. Right now it's one-handed mace with Facebreaker, but Fist of Stone might change it to spear, so that's something to consider. Then you are generating frenzy charges. If you want to turn them into power charges to still use, say, a Flicker Strike, because you could do Spear Quarterstaff, or, you know, obviously the Face Breakers with Martial Master. If you want to use Flicker Strike, you would do Power Charges, get Resonance. If you want to do Hollow Form, same thing, you need Power Charges, so you take Resonance. Or you can just do something that uses Frenzy Charges, something that consumes Frenzy Charges. Barrage, because you'll be using a Spear anyway. So with Barrage, you can get a bunch of extra repeats. I haven't done Frenzy Charges, so I can't really tell you what great stuff it would have. But Stormlance, if you want to go for lightning stuff. Wind Serpent's Fury. There's quite a few things you can consume Frenzy Charges with. Even Spear Throw. Or Glacial Lance. So, that's all fun possibilities. Back to what I was saying, though, I believe that's, now that I've covered Cull of the Week, I believe that's everything I wanted to cover. If there's anything that are like mechanical questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I will do my best to answer. There might be stuff I just didn't know about, that's why I didn't even bring it up. But I will do my best to figure it out. Oh, right. Someone asked, I did respond to them in the comments, but in case someone saw the comment but not my response, this is kind of unrelated to this Cull build, but they asked about the possibility of Hollow Form with Hand of Chayula. Would you be able to use Hand of Chayula, Hollow Form, to be throwing out a bunch of marks and curses and whatnot? I don't know, because I don't have a character that can test this. But if you would like to test this, it should be very... That's not what that's called. Feral. It should be very similar to Feral Invocation with Pounce. So if Feral Invocation, that it casts a socketed shapeshifting attack, if you can do Feral Invocation with Pounce, and it'll trigger a socketed mark. It might even just work. I mean, it should work with Predator's Mark, but I don't know if it would work with a socketed mark. But if it does, then you should be able to use Hollow Form with Hand of Chayula. I don't know what the fuck they were cooking up. They were saying some stuff about, like, what was it? The Burning Inscriptions. You could do some Burning Inscription stuff with Runic Inscriptions. And with Hollow Form, Hand of Chayula, with some Burning Inscription stuff, you could potentially get like a bunch of these fields on the ground. Could be something interesting worth looking into. Felt like I might as well throw that into the end here to try and offload the work of testing Feral Invocation and Pounce onto someone else, because I don't have a character that can do so right now. But, right, okay. I think I already finished the sentence, but just in case I didn't, if you have any questions about anything else, I may be able to answer them. I may just not have thought about it. You may know some interactions that I might not know of. Feel free to let me know and or ask your questions. Within the next couple of days, I will put together... Fuck, it might just be a build guide. For my League Starter, which will probably be Martial Artist, but with Staggering Palm. I think that will be a pretty fun build to do. There's still some stuff I don't know about that build as well. I'll give you a hint, though. It's Face Breakers. I need to see what Fist of Stone turns Face Breakers into. But I will put out the build guide, theory, craft, whatever you want to call it, before League launch, which is in 6 days. I don't know why I opened it there. I had to look at my calendar instead of just doing this. It is in just under 6 days. So before that happens, there'll be a video about my Staggering Palm League Starter. Thanks for watching, all that good stuff. Yeah, I got nothing else. I was trying to think of something else to maybe throw in here. Video's 30 minutes long. It does not feel like I just talked for 30 minutes. Am I delaying a little bit? Because I know I have to cut some like dead space out of here, and I want the video to actually be 30 minutes for literally zero reason whatsoever. No, why would you think that? All right, bye.